marijuana related, they definitely don't want to call me, they call somebody else because they're going to help out with that. Part of these things that we're assigned to is I handle all cases of sexual assault, whether adults or their minors. But in particular, I focus a lot on human trafficking as well as child exploitation. Human trafficking has a lot of different aspects of it. It could be labor trafficking, it could be sex trafficking, it could be servitude, but I primarily focus on sex trafficking and domestic sex trafficking more than anything else. I would work international cases if we had them, but primarily I focus on domestic cases. Child exploitation is a lot of the catch a predator stuff. So when you read in the paper that Santa Rosa Police Department caught a guy looking to meet a 13-year-old girl, I'm the 13-year-old girl. It's very surprising not to show us, and it's not what you think. I've been working with prostitution type related cases since 2007. On patrol, I met a very young woman in the Costco shopping center. It was January, very cold outside. She caught my interest when she was walking around the shopping center because I'm cold, I'm in a long sleeve shirt and a jacket, heated car. I noticed her in the middle of the evening, roughly 34 degrees, 35 degrees, in a tube top and short shorts. What made it more disturbing for me was the fact that she was 6 months pregnant. And so when I contacted her, I'm having a conversation with, hey, why can't we get something, better job, something that's going to be safer, something with benefits? And she asked me, well, where am I going to work? Blockbuster for $8 an hour. I'll make $800 to $1,000 tonight. So if someone's going to make $1,000 in one night, if you give her a normal work week, 5 nights, which is not normal for these girls, they have to work every night. But that's $5,000 a week. I can't argue with $5. I don't even make $5,000 a week, so how am I going to tell her to work at Blockbuster when that's just not what you're going to do? That's 2007. We didn't really have resources back there to provide, so that got me even more interested in these kinds of cases. So from then, I started working on patrol a little bit more, tried to talk to these girls to see if there was anything we could do, see if there was a pimp that was going on behind this. And every girl I met on the street said, nope, there's no pimp. The problem is with patrol, there's always a pending call. There's a domestic violence call, a theft call, a DUI car rolled around somewhere. There's not enough time to dig in deep to find out what the backstory is. So when I became a detective a couple of years ago, that's what I started to focus on. I realized there was a need and an issue out there that wasn't being addressed by my department. We dealt with trafficking in a very different way. We dealt with it that prostitutes were prostitutes and that was illegal. That's a big part of what we went after. Since being a detective, I've joined a couple of task forces. One of them is the Sonoma County Human Trafficking Task Force. That meets once a month at our Family Justice Center. That has a collaborative approach which has incorporated law enforcement, the DA's office, CPS, as well as a lot of NGOs, nonprofits. So like Charity, which is the Ray Price Trauma Center, Crossing the Jordan is on there, SAY, which is the youth center, which is amazing, they're on there as well. Serapis International is honored, and the Junior League of Sonoma Napa are some of the people that work with us in our task force. Kind of changed the way we do. I also work on a task force that is from the FBI. We meet once a month in the Bay Area and kind of rotates around when we meet, but that's strictly law enforcement. So we share cases, we talk about things that are going on in their areas or pimps that are also working in multiple areas. One of the cases I'll talk about in a minute just adjudicated, and we got a case on the suspect up here. The Bay Area and the FBI have been trying to make a case on him for decades and couldn't do it. We did it and got a conviction in our county here. So a lot of the times people think that this stuff just happens in Oakland, but no, that happens up here and it kind of travel along together. So what is trafficking? Sex trafficking in particular is when in which a commercial sex act is influenced by force, fraud, or coercion, or which the person induced to perform the act is not within the age of 18. So basically, the real confusion part is people think that trafficking and pimping are the same thing. In the penal code section, pimping is anyone who earns an income from an individual they know committing the act of prostitution. Trafficking is where you force an individual into doing that and have no real choice or ability to escape it. And that works in a lot of different ways. Sometimes when we use the word force, we think that that's hitting or pushing or punching or kidnapping. Sometimes it starts like that, or sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that force, that fraud or coercion is more about that psychological hold that these men have over these women. So when you get one of those elements for an adult, it actually changes the sentencing. Until 2012, when the elections came out, Prop 35 passed, which is the Case Act, the maximum sentence of an adult victim could face, or excuse me, the maximum sentence a pimp could face for an adult victim was roughly 6 to 8 years. California passed that proposition by one of the highest margins in state history with over 80%. It's now changed to 20 years in prison max if someone commits this act. If it's a child, You don't have to prove any of those things. You don't have to prove forced barter. If you can show that that guy is a pimp and he's running that underage girl, this automatically kicks in. And the sentence for that is roughly about the same amount of time. But if they use forced barter coercion on a minor, they actually face 15 years to life in prison. Very big sentence, and now they have to register as sex offenders. So if you're convicted of pimping, pandering, or human trafficking of a minor, you now have to register when you're out of prison as a sex offender, which is a great, great thing. That proposition also required law enforcement to get training, which is great because we're always using time and stuff. Where my perspective ultimately changed was I knew that there was something wrong going on. I got a report when I was a detective in my first couple of months. It was of a 13-year-old runaway out of Santa Rosa. A lot of times we look at these runaway reports as just a rebellious teenager, angry with mom or dad or sibling. So they take off running. Well, we started looking into this because we started getting phone calls from her friends at school saying, hey, I think she's being pimped out, but I don't know what to do about it. So this girl, the victim, would contact her friends by telephone on a regular basis, but she blocked the phone. She finally made a mistake 4 weeks in and didn't block the phone the first week had. She didn't bring her personal cell phone, so we didn't really know how to find her. So once we had that, we started running that number out. We found out that that number was attached to other people who were known to be prostituting in the Marin County area. It was on websites that were known for prostitution, one in the Red Book, which the FBI has now taken down, which is great. But we still didn't know where she was. We still couldn't just call her and say, hey, come back. That wasn't her. So me and my boss at the time decided that we would go into Marin County. We knew with San Rafael, Nevada, that she was primarily in. She did go into San Francisco and Richmond, Oakland. We found that out later. But for 4 days, we hit every city hotel in Marin County. And we think of Marin County as being a rich, luxurious kind of county, unfortunately. Still not better than Sonoma County. But got a lot of money. But I'll tell you, they have a lot of really bad pockets of places and a lot of really seedy things. I can't tell you how many hotels I went to where John Smith was checked in or Jane Doe. I didn't realize there's that many John Smiths and Jane Does in that county either. But we couldn't find this girl. We had her picture of where we were sleeping outside of these hotels. We were doing everything that we can. To this day, I still can't tell you how we found that girl. One officer heard us talking about it to another officer in Nevada, and he's like, hey, that sounds familiar to a report I took the other day on the phone of a girl that looked like she might have been missing, but they couldn't find her. We made a date with one of the other prostituted females. We might know her. She came in, was cooperative, and said, that's great, I'll make a phone call to him and see if I can find out where they were. So they found out they were in Fairfax. We had no idea where in Fairfax. We drove to Fairfax, and the cop then said, we only have one bad house in our entire city. They got to be there. Sure enough, they were. It's a great place to work. If there's only one bad house to go to. So we go there, we find her again. She's 13 years old. I go in, I've seen her picture there on my desk for 4 weeks. I know exactly what she looks like. I go in and say, hey, I'm Chris, I'm here to help you. I don't know who you are, I don't know who you think I am. It's not me. Pimp's not there. She's just with some other teenagers. We finally get her outside, sit her on the stoop. I'm sitting in the rain and the dirt in front of her. And I'm like, hey, you're not in any trouble. You didn't do anything wrong. She leans forward, starts screaming and crying, and grabs onto my neck to hug me and says, hey, you gotta leave. He finds out that you're here, he'll kill me. He'll kill my sister, he'll kill my mom. You just gotta go. Ultimately, we're not gonna leave her here. So we bring her up to our children's center up here. We get her in touch with our rape crisis trauma center advocates. They actually meet us on the freeway, get in our car in Nevada, and they drive out with us to the children's center. They stayed with the victim for 2 hours while she was getting checked in. That's not normal. We don't do that normally. We usually wait the next day to do the interview. Through the interview, we ended up finding out that she had been doing this for 4 weeks, forced to have sex with at least 6 men per night, 6 nights a week, for 4 weeks. That is a lot of men. That is more sex than the average person probably has in their own lifetime, and she's 13 years old. And this is a 13-year-old who doesn't look 18, doesn't look 17, she was 13, maybe 14. Also, come to find out that the pimp has been sexually abusing her as well. So not only is she getting abused by these random men, but the man that she was there, she believes she trusted. Ultimately, what we found out was that she ran away because her mom, when she would drink, was abusive, physically assaulted her. We also found out that mom's boyfriend had been sexually assaulted her for the past couple of years. So her goal was to get to Chicago to be with a family that she believes could help her, adopt her, and make her better. Well, what happened was that she gets in this situation because another teenager said, hey, I know someone who can help you. They'll be able to help you get who you need to get you to Chicago. Now, when she's in this situation, she doesn't want to do it. So people think that these women have a choice, or these kids. Her choice was to go back and be physically abused and sexually assaulted, or keep making these dates and have sex with random men and hope that this guy's going to be truthful and help her get to Chicago. she really didn't have a choice. And that's when I started to change how we started looking at these things. Now in all these interviews, whether they're adults or women, adults or children, we have an advocate there for them at all times. The advocate sits with them during the interview, or they watch from a television while I interview them, and they go in so that way the advocate already knows what's going on, but they doesn't have to keep re-explaining everything on there as well. These kids are given services if they're children, even if they're not our county children, we still get CPS involved with them, because CPS can offer them a lot more services than we really have. Prior to 2012, when I became a detective, when we do these kinds of operations, or even a sting operation, they were really just kind of testing grounds for detectives to learn how to do undercover work. Usually picking up dates, their prostitution acts, are fairly safe. Usually the women don't bring weapons, they don't fight, it's usually pretty safe, and the detectives can learn how to act in an undercover capacity. But there was really no enforcement other than on the women. There's an FBI statistic that came out in 2012 as well, that for every 100 arrests related to prostitution, 98 of them were the women, and 2 of them were the men, and that includes the Johns and the Pimps. During one of these operations, I was outside watching youth surveillance. I noticed how a gentleman drove female there, parked the car outside, female went in, got arrested for prostitution, came back outside, we talked to the male half, told them both don't come back here again. She got a ticket, they drove all the way back to Pittsburgh, which is roughly 2.5 hours from Santa Rosa. They did it for $180. No one asked that guy why he was there. He said it was his girlfriend. I've never met very many men or women that are okay with their significant other having sex, or where the significant other is going to drive them to a hotel to have sex with somebody else, and that's going to be okay. I started realizing the way we were prioritizing these cases just wasn't right. We were targeting the wrong thing. We were going after someone who, victim or not, was not the real issue at hand. It was that demand, and it was those men that were running those women. So we started to change. No longer in these operations do we just focus on the prostitution portion. We have detectives there that specialize in trafficking, and we look at that aspect of it as well. Yes, we may cite or arrest for prostitution as well, but we focus on the Johns and the Pimps that are bringing them out there, because that's where we can get bigger bang for our buck and actually try and stop some of this problem. So also, in a lot of these operations, we have CPS out there. And during these undercovers, we never had anything but law enforcement. We have social services, we have Rotary, we have HIV testing, we have CPS. CPS is great because they explain about things like AB 12, which is an assembly bill, that if you're in the foster care system and you're up to the age of 21, from 18 to 21, you can receive about $805 per month if you meet once a month with your social worker, work small amount, or go to school. They'll provide you with these things to help you succeed if you've been in the system. That way the system isn't dropping you anymore. A lot of the kids, the women that were in this lifestyle were part of that foster care system. So we're finding ways to give them money whether or not have to do it through commercial settings. Some of the types of exploitation that we see are what are called, what's in quotes for the most part are not my terms, so please don't hold them against me. But we have what are called track hoes. Those are girls that walk up and down certain particular roadway in an area. For example, in Santa Rosa, it's from Santa Rosa Avenue, Todd Road, all the way up to downtown. In our city, you see a difference from the further south you go, the girls are from further out of town. The further north you go, the more local the girls are. But those are the girls that we stereotypically think of as prostitution, like short shorts, high heels, short tops, or tight outfits in general. Online is another really big booming thing. That's probably the biggest issue we have right now. Redbook and Backpage are the 2 biggest ones. Has anyone heard of either of those before? So Redbook just hit the papers. Redbook used to be an ad-based advertisement online that was only for prostitution. So if you pulled up Redbook, it would have, you could choose the area you wanted, kind of some demographics you wanted for a girl, and it was like a catalog for commercial settings. The girl's picture would be up there. Usually she's some face pictures, but usually a lot of no clothing pictures. It's got everything from her bust size to her cup size to her kitty, how that was maintained. We're not talking about her cat. A lot of those kinds of things. But on the bottom, there's a disclosure that said these ads are not for prostitution. I'm not really understanding if you're trying to get a massage, what the masseuse's breast size and cup size has to do with your massage. So a lot of that time, that's what was out there. It was very easy to use, and you could actually review the girl. So if John went and had a date with her, he could review her on the bottom, give her a rating of 1 to 10 about how he felt about her appearance, how she looked, how her services were, and how her cleanliness was. Well, the FBI had been working a case about 3 to 5 years and finally shut that down. So the owner of that was arrested for racketeering, IRS issues, and a bunch of stuff, but in relation to prostitution. That's not wrong. Backpage, another one that's really popular. It's been popular, but it's getting even more now that Redbook is down. It basically took over when Craigslist got rid of their adult services, and they got rid of that section completely. Backpage popped up. Looks very similar to Craigslist, but it's not the same. You click on there, you click on escort services, its own little icon, and you can see the same kind of thing you can see on Redbook. That is user friendly, and it costs you $5 to post an ad, but it's more popular now because Redbook is more. Usually related to online, these girls are usually in a hotel or a motel, and that's where you usually go to meet them. In-calls and out-calls mean, if you go to an in-call, it means the girl's gonna stay in there in her hotel, the John's gonna meet her there. An out-call means she's gonna come out to wherever you are. Out-calls aren't as common anymore because that's usually how we get the girls. We say, hey, I'm at a hotel, you wanna have a date, they show up, we arrest her or the kid or the kid. Carpet hose, another not my term. I bring it on here now because normally we didn't have this one on here, but it's now a thing in our town. And a lot of casinos, you see a lot of girls that are walking around that are looking for commercial sex dates. The pimps are usually not far behind them watching what's happening. Usually in Atlantic City, Vegas, Reno, places like that, you see a lot of this stuff that's happening. We're also seeing some of that's happening in the casino here. Now, just so the casino does not yell at me anymore. The casino is not encouraging prostitution to occur in their establishment. But anytime you bring people with a lot of money to an area, a higher traffic volume of people, you're going to see those kinds of services taking place. Same thing at Christmas time on Santa Rosa Avenue. You see a lot more girls walking because people are going to Target, Sports City, Costco. More people, more demand, more people working on those areas. The other things that we see are massage parlors, which are very common. The Asian massage parlors in particular, what we have an issue with in Sonoma County. A lot of them, we've worked in cases before where we've had women who are bringing over their sisters or their cousins or their friends who don't speak any English from China, and they're being forced to work in these kinds of environments in order to kind of pay off debts that they owe to help them get there. So we do have those kinds of things as well. And strip clubs. Most of these girls who are forced into trafficking work at a strip club at some point, where any money they earn still has to go back to the trafficking. Some of the kinds of pimps that we work with typically are stereotypical pimps, which are known as gorilla pimps. These are the guys we see on television who are beating, punching, burning girls with cigarettes. That's fairly common, but it's not the most common thing that we see nowadays. We see what are called Romeo pimps. These are guys that really present like a boyfriend or a father figure. These are the guys that the girls are oftentimes calling daddy or husband or other these kind of loving, endearing terms, because these guys really manipulate these girls very well. The biggest tool that these guys use isn't force or fraud, it's just active listening. These guys know everything about these girls. They know that they've been hurt in other relationships, they know they've been sexually assaulted in the past, they know they have drug addiction problems, so if they give them a little bit more meth or coke or heroin, these girls will stay attached more because they want to keep getting that fix as well. These guys know that, and so they feed on that in order to keep these girls there. These Romeo pimps usually end up using force, violence, or threats at some point in these relationships, so they're kind of all intermingled with one another. But that's the most common thing we see. The big problem that we have with a lot of these cases is really the glorification of pimping. So in today's society, pimp is a great term. People think that you hear pimping on the radio, you hear it in movies, you see it everywhere. So the problem is nowadays we're trying to change a lot of that culture. When we talk about pimps, we call them traffickers. We don't call girls prostitutes, we call them prostitutes, females, or victims. We don't call Johns anymore because my uncle is John and he's a nice guy. So we call them purchasers or buyers. We're really trying to change the terminology that our county is using these days. But the problem still exists. We have movies like Hustle and Flow. Did anyone see that? It's about an aspiring rapper who's not doing very well. Terrence Howard was nominated for Best Actor in that film. When he wasn't doing well in the rapping career, he decided he was going to run girls instead because it was more lucrative and he could make more money that way. The song from that was It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp, that won for Best Song from a Film at the Oscars in 2006. So because it won, they were allowed to perform that song. The Oscars claim to be one of the biggest award shows seen worldwide by saying it showed more than 1 billion people. The problem with that is you had scantily clad women dancing on stage with men throwing money, saying it's hard out here for a pimp. We have these young girls and these women who are forced into this trade, but yet when they're seeing this stuff on television, who's ever going to believe that they're a victim? Who's ever going to think that, okay, these girls aren't choosing to do this because we see it on mainstream television, so if mainstream television says it's okay, people on the jury box are going to think that they have a choice to get at it when they really don't. That show is also hosted by Jon Stewart. He's huge with the 18 to 40 crowd, very, very cult classic kind of guy, and so it brings in that younger generation that was watching that show as well. Anyone know who Ice-T is?
Yeah.
What show was he on?
Law and Order.
Law and Order SVU, one of my favorite shows. I know it's stereotypical, but I love it. He is out there, and a lot of they do episodes on human trafficking. They do a lot of episodes about protecting women and helping them, giving them a voice back when someone is taken for sexual assault. He does all these great things, and it's granted it's a character, it's a persona. But you have to live up to that character sometimes in our society, especially when you're playing that role for so long. But he's also done multiple films that are not films you're probably ever going to see, but where he narrates for pimping videos to teach people how to be a pimp. He used to be a pimp and has no problem with that. He narrates his videos about how to keep your girl in line. I mean, she tries to get out of control of what you do and you deal with it. So while on television he's playing one role, behind the scenes he's really advocating for something completely different. Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5. Grand Theft Auto 4 was the #1 selling video game of all time. Now it's 5. In Grand Theft Auto 4, you would get money for having sex with a prostitute. You would get money for beating a prostitute. You would get money for raping a prostitute. You would get money for killing a prostitute. You would get money for pimping her out as well. I don't believe that video games make violent people. I just don't buy it. But I do believe when an 18-year-old can't figure out how to get out of jury duty, and I'm presenting a trafficking case in front of him, and his only interaction with a prostituted individual was one that he was able to beat, rape, and prostitute, or pimp out, he's going to look at that person more as property than an actual victim. He's going to look at it as, okay, my only interaction with this is someone who isn't real. It's not something that would normally happen, so this can't be happening in our beautiful county. So that's my concern, is you're going to get somebody in a jury box who doesn't really understand, and then in the end, someone who's a horrible person doing horrible things to teenagers and adults is going to get acquitted because of those kinds of things. Pimp controls a lot of different aspects of it. Kind of like we talked about with the Romeo pimps, there's a lot of promises. In particular with the 13-year-old girl, she was promised that they're going to help her get to Chicago, get to a better place. All she has to do is turn some dates to help with money, to help with hotels, to help with some of the finances, just so they can get out there. They help and they keep that promise and that hope going for a long time. They ultimately use violence and force. A lot of these girls, I've never met very many of them who haven't been beaten or hit or sexually assaulted by these pimps. They also threaten the families, in particular the younger siblings. A lot of these women come from bad situations, bad home lives. Because of that, they're oftentimes taking care of younger siblings. So what these pimps do is they know that, and they threaten those people. They threaten, hey, I'm going to go after your 12-year-old sister if you don't do this, because I'll make her come out here and do it in your place. So that usually keeps a lot of these women to stay in. Manipulation is a big part of it. They humiliate these women. When you're taking their pictures and putting them online to sell them, those pictures don't disappear. So when these girls want to leave, these traffickers are like, that's fine, I'm just going to send your picture pictures to your grandma, to your mother. When you get a job, I'm going to email it to your boss so everyone can see those kinds of things. And it causes, because they're so together so long, because it's kind of humiliating situation, we become bonded to these traffickers. The traumatic bonding is kind of, people related to kind of Stockholm syndrome, but a lot of it has to do with spending a whole lot of time together. People who are with others in traumatic situations or more difficult situations tend to build faster relationships much quicker. But they're always eating together. These traffickers don't let these girls do very much by themselves. They oftentimes having sex with these women. And a lot of cases, they get them pregnant. One case in particular that I was working in collaboration with one across the county, he got all of his girls pregnant and had babies with all of them, and would send them throughout the U.S. to make money. And if they didn't make enough money, they couldn't see their kid for a certain period of time. These guys are very good about finding what's important to the victims and holding that for ransom. This is the case just adjudicated. Mr. Romes had 5 victims who contacted him at Santa Rosa Hotel. Only 2 of the 5 were actually cooperative with us. Through that, those 5 women were sent to different states and were sending back money. When we finally worked through this case entirely, he was trying to say that, okay, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a pimp. But his pimping was associated with being a protector or a guide or someone who did all the money, held everything together. But ultimately, he was still forcing each of the girls to have sex with him each night. On the phone, in his jail phone calls, when we were listening to them, the one girl that was out making him money to help pay for his lawyer, he told her on the phone, you better get doing what you're told because you're bred to be obedient. I've never heard someone say that and be okay with it. He was actually sentenced a week and a half ago to 15 years in prison for his behavior. That was the case the FBI and other agencies were trying to make for years because it came out. Some of the things that they're required to do is make quotas. Usually in Sonoma County, it's somewhere between $800 to $1,200 a night, but they're also required to bring in other girls into the fold. So the more girls that are being run, the more money the trafficker makes. If one girl's making $1,000 a night, working 5 nights a week, that's $5,000. You have 3 girls doing that, you make $15,000. And they're clearly not paying taxes, so it's all free money. Maybe we should kind of talk about that. So some of the stuff that we do see is that mind frame of these women when they're stuck in a situation. This is from a journal. These are real, they're not edited, other than some of the bold words, just like turning up a little bit. But this is from June 27th. She knows that I use I'm going to use her name. Today was prosperous, although I didn't accumulate my quota due to my mispaid yesterday. My mom needs $50 for a girls' day, Friday. As I leave San Rafael, I intend to make the rest of my quota in Richmond. Typical. I'm grateful though, and I was prayed for by a young lady named Melissa. That was nice. 1 week later, she puts Daddy's birthday. I'm officially cleaned up. I trust this guy. I went back on my word and putting my life in a man's hands. But I feel not only was it necessary, but it was worth it. I love the way he handles me, like a man should. I had never heard a woman say that, and it's surprising to see. But that's the kind of manipulation in less than a week. She's already feeling that bond with this person. The next day, I'm just in awe. I'm going with my instinct to move forward. I love the way he looks at me. I love the way I look at him. His touch sends me to a different emotion that I've been waiting upon survival. Not only do I see a man, I too see a king. My mom and dad were married 29 years before my dad passed away 2 years ago. So I'm 31 now. So I've been there the entire time. And all those years, I've never once heard my mother call my father a king. If he lived 34 years, I'm pretty sure she still would be calling him. You just kind of see how the manipulation goes very quickly with these women, the dependency that kind of keeps these guys with them. FBI showed in 2012 some information that trafficking is now the second largest operation for criminal organizations. Gangs, narcotics, drug dealers are all switching to this because the crime is a lot less punishment-wise, and also the reward is significantly higher. If it costs you $3,000 for an assault rifle, you can turn around and sell it for $5,000 and get $2,000. If you sell 2 girls for a week, you're making that same amount of money each week. Kind of skip through something pretty quick. That's it for now. Cover books is one of the things that we keep talking about right now. We've kind of switched to a lot of the ways that we do things. A lot of the stuff that we're doing now is really working with organizations to help get services that need to these girls. 2 of the operations that we've done this year, out of the 6 of them, were John Block, which we completed here. We arrested 11 guys that were looking to purchase sex from women. 2 of them were looking because they believed it was a 13-year-old girl, but it was me. One of them was actually a criminal defense attorney in Sonoma County who ran for judge twice. It was no paper, so I don't mind saying it was John Mont. He was the one that we arrested. You can Google it, it's right there as well. The other one that we did was 4 operations in one day. It involved 100 officers with 27 different agencies. From that, 3 men, it was a trafficking looking for traffickers, 1 looking for Johns, and another one that was looking for Johns looking for underage sex. 3 of those men thought they were meeting a 13-year-old girl for underage sex. On that, all of those operations, we had CPS there, HIV testing, we had rape crisis trauma, we had housing prosperity, we had SAY there as well, and CPS. All these different organizations really helping out a lot of stuff. Some of the other stuff that we're doing is educational forums throughout the community, school resource stuff, education and medical staff, as well as first responders and law enforcement in particular. Some of the things that we're doing are proclamations, things like that, the county recognizing that trafficking is out in our community and how we can resolve it. Rallies and forums, John's name is a big thing right now. Nail cards, we have these little cards that we give out to victims that look like you're making a nail appointment for manicures and pedicures, but the 800 number is call by appointment only. So instead of getting one of those people who do your nails, it actually goes to a rape crisis trauma center. These girls can get services, but they can hide it in their wall so everyone doesn't actually know what they're doing. Last thing is just in case anybody will see, you're going to have the presentation, but these are some of the services that we work with. The National Human Trafficking Resource Center is run by the Polaris Project. If you ever have any questions about trafficking, or you know somebody who might be involved in it and you're nervous about the police getting involved and they don't want the police involved, you can always contact them and they'll give you services in any area that are offered for human trafficking victims. So if you know someone in San Francisco, they'll give you information about that as well. Even in Sonoma County, they have our services as well. That's my fast talking presentation in 30 minutes.
unobtrusively taking that into a restaurant. And one last thing. We do a door prize. So if you would draw a card and read the last.
0947.
Thank you very much.
Good karma for sponsoring.
Good.
Okay, you know the drill, Mark. You got to draw the ace out of here, and you get all this money. I don't know why, but, so 10 came in today. So let's just kind of shuffle these guys over here.
Here's one. Here's one.
I'm going to look and sure there's an ace in there somewhere. Yeah. So all you got to do is draw it. No looking. Oh, too close. No sir.
You get a door prize, however. Comment Lovejoy.
Okay. Bruce, make us laugh.
I think today's joke is particularly appropriate with Chris here. There was a police patrolman who suffered a case of appendicitis, was taken into the hospital where the doctor operated on him, everything was fine. He was recovering in his hospital bed, but he kept feeling this kind of funny tugging down in the groin area, and he couldn't figure out what it was. It kept getting worse, and he was really concerned that there was something to do with the appendicitis, so he finally got courage enough to lift his hospital down to see what the problem was. And there across him was this nice wide strip of hospital adhesive tape with a note on it that says, "Get well soon," from the nurse she pulled over in the Blue Explorer last week.
Okay. So, do we have a closing song?
We do.